Jeff Salzenstein, and I'm a professional out of the Intermountain Division. I run an online tennis instruction website called Tennis Evolution. You might be able to tell that I played for Stanford University for 4 years, some of the best 4 years of my life, because of the speaker that's about to present for us. Coach Dick Gould, Stanford men's team won 17 NCAA team championships, among the top 3 records in the country for any men's or women's sport. For 34 years, every player has at least won 1 NCAA championship ring. He has produced 10 NCAA singles and 7 NCAA doubles champions. 13 of his former players have won a combined 72 Grand Slam titles. 9 have attained world singles rankings in the ATP's top 15, and 14 have reached the top 10 in doubles, of which 7 have been ranked number 1. At Wimbledon in 1982, 8 of his players reached at least the round of 32. In 1983, 4 reached at least the quarterfinals in singles. He became an honorary member of the USPTA in 1981 and certified as a specialist in competitive player development. He has spoken at conferences in most USPTA sections. He was awarded the USTA Educational Merit Award in 1983 and was named a USTA Coaching Legend in 2016. Dick was named Coach of the Century for men's tennis and Intercollegiate Coach of the Decade for the 80s and 90s. He is Stanford Athletics' longest ever employee, 52 years, and 2002 the university honored him as the Cuthbertson Award winner for exceptional contributions to Stanford University. Today, Coach Gould is presenting My Ideal Team. Let's welcome Coach Gould.
Jeffrey, can you hear me? Excuse me, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, let's go. Surprised you guys made it up this early. One of the great pleasures of coaching, get used to this, is coaching young people like Jeff and to see them grow up and be such a success in whatever they do, and especially what Jeff has done in tennis has been absolutely incredible. Tennis family, Dad played great tennis and just really one of the outstanding people in every respect. So we're all in the same business. We all have the good fortune once in a while to run across people like Jeff. So, Jeff, thank you. I wrote that, by the way. A little bit of personal background, and if at any time the sound goes down or wanders off of here, just raise your hand up and I'll turn it around or whatever. I've coached for 44 years. I started out as physical education major and taught in high school, a couple years of football and tennis coaching there. Moved to a junior college, taught 4 years there, and then my coach at Stanford retired. But up until that time, while I was a high school and JC coach, I was a teaching club pro as well. And those provided some of the most rewarding moments of my life. I was at Stanford as coach for 38 years and then retired into the director of tennis position, which gave me the chance to do a lot of things I could not do when I was coaching, didn't have time to do. So I've been blessed in that regard very, very much. When I was hired there, Stanford did not have a great track record in any sport. We kind of a lull, and we were really good in sports right after World War II, when a lot of people were away and so on, and then we just hit really rock bottom. And I really felt as a student there that we could do something special in tennis. And I told people when I was hired, I really felt it was possible to win a national championship, and I literally was laughed at. And we were barely a top 10 team. I don't think we'd ever been out of the top 10. But there was a tremendous difference between USC and UCLA in those days, and occasionally Trinity University of Texas. They were here, everybody else was in a whole different planet. I was a young coach. I was not known outside the local area at all. I was only a good college player. I had no experience in the Pro Tour. There really wasn't much in those days as such. Stanford had never won, and champions in tennis usually, in any sport, want to join a winner, not really an unknown quantity. It's just too much of a chance to take. But my dream was that Stanford tennis could go all the way to the top. My plan was built in a well-defined and simple goal. Remember that one has to be the champion of the block before that person can become the champion of the world. I wanted to attract the best young school players in junior tennis to Stanford, but the question is, all of us know who've been in college coaching, how do you do that? I was very, very lucky starting out. I contacted the USPTA, and they agreed to have a national junior training camp, Davis Cup training camp at Stanford. It was about a 10-day event, and it was tied in with two big tournaments in the area at the time, the California State Championships at San Jose, and then 30 miles up the road, the National Hardcourt Championships in Burlingame. So the kids would come in at the USTA's expense. For 3 straight years we did this. Housed at Stanford. Barry McKay was our in-house coach. They had a traveling coach there as well. I was the glad hand host, so I got to know them pretty well. We did a great job running this event, and it really got their name Stanford before them. They got used to the area, and it gave me a chance to get to know them and then to know me. They really enjoyed being there. But being there and then enrolling them there are two different things, and so that was my next big goal. I had a great product. I had to figure out a way to sell it. And that's what all of us face every day. We have great products, and we have to figure out how best to sell our sport and what we're doing. I realized right away that to say something and have a goal and to reach it are two different things. It was a learning experience for me. A lot of challenges occurred to us all along the way. For me, as I said, we had never been out of the top 10 in tennis since World War II, but never at the top. And my first year, we were 16th in the country. My second year, we were 33rd. I didn't know that many schools had tennis programs. And my third year, we won 9 matches and lost 12. But at that point, freshmen all of a sudden were eligible for the first time, and we started to build a pretty good recruit base. Some of you may remember a fellow named Paul Gherkin, a wonderful fellow teaching up in the New York, New England area. He was at Stanford for 1 year, but at that time the freshmen couldn't play, so he couldn't play in any matches. He was one of my first 2 big recruits. He said, "Coach, there was not much promise anyone was coming into school." You remember those days, Chris? And Paul said, "Coach, I just have to go where my buddies are at Trinity." And he went down to join Dickie Stockton and Brian Gottfried and who else is down there? Chuck McKinley. No, Chuck was a little bit ahead of Bobby McKinley. Yeah, so really a great team, and it was a great move for him, frankly. But this reminded me a little bit of Rudyard Kipling's great poem, If, and the words in there where it says, "If you watch the things you give your life to broken, and then stoop down and build them up with worn-out tools." And that was so true because all of a sudden we did. Roscoe Tanner was accepted and decided to enroll at Stanford. We had an undying faith and belief in our dream that we would prevail. And finally, after saying it would happen and then starting not to believe it myself, it actually did happen. But now to the topic of today. Each of these 44 teams I had in high school and JC and at Stanford, each one was very, very different. People ask me, how do you run challenge matches, or how do you select your team lineup? Well, it's different every year because of the makeup of the team. As I describe this, I like to think of what would make an ideal team. If I could take all these little parts of these experiences over these 44 years and put them together, what to me would be an ideal team? And this could be your family, a family team. It could be your team around the club, the work team, the people you work with, your compatriots, your friends in the business. It could be a business team. I'm going to touch on 3 areas: that of personality traits, desire to get better, and balance. First of all, personality traits. And I think this is really important. Life is short. This ideal team would include teammates who are energetic. They're up. They walk tall. They walk with a bounce. They look you right in the eye. They recognize the power of a smile and the sunshine that smile spreads to other people. It's cold and rainy outside. They get up in the morning, hop in that hot shower, and they're singing, "A zippity-doo-dah, zippity-ay, a my, oh my, what a wonderful day." If you remember that song. They dream big. Walt Disney said to his Imagineers, "If you can dream it, you can do it." They take pride in how they appear to others, in their grooming, their dress, and their cleanliness. They're positive. Absolutely no complaints. No alibis, no rationalizations. They let their racket speak. They just do it. This ideal team is proud of what it is, but it embraces humility. It values dignity. It values class, especially when it fails. It earns credibility. It earns the trust of others. It lives by the golden rule. It fosters respect and consideration for others, involving tolerance and individual differences. It embraces loyalty. It values learning and the opportunity to learn, both on the court and off. This ideal team understands the importance of image. Sadly, our world gives us so many poor examples of this. And even in sport, drugs, performance-enhancing, recreational. In-your-face taunting, such as a good shot, match point, or set point, and the in-the-face, yeah, at your opponent. You read about cheating, stealing, abuse by coaches and athletes every day. Not only competitors, but also spectators, and sadly, players and their parents, even worse. How valuable then are our positive examples, Positive Coaching Alliance? Where's Kerry? What a great, great program that is. You think of people like Derek Jeter, Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year a number of years ago for the Yankees. You think of Drew Brees and the Hurricane of Miami and all he did to help rebuild that city morally and otherwise. And we have the best example of all right in our own world. What better example of the right image and projecting competitiveness than Nadal and Federer's rivalry? Image begins with pride in yourself and what you stand for. I also want to talk, secondly, about getting better. This ideal team is composed of people who have an incessant desire to improve and get better individually and collectively. It has an uncommon passion to succeed in what it is trying to accomplish. Now, this does not mean perfection. In the first grade, we came home with a little piece of paper. Had 10 spaces on it. C-A-T, D-O-G. We got them all right. Teacher put a gold star on that page, a smiley face, and sadly wrote the word perfect, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. And we got a little bit confused. We thought that to be successful, we had to be perfect. We forgot that the best batter in baseball fails to get a hit 2/3 of the time. Best quarterback in football fails to complete 1/3 of his passes. And I don't think very many of you have ever won 24 straight points in a set. Rather, this team works hard, prepares to improve its parts. And yet this in tennis is a hard thing to measure, this improvement. I had a couple of my kids who were college swimmers. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how lucky they were. They might go for a year and never win a race. But they could always better their time. They could always see their improvement. What a tremendous, wonderful thing for a sport to have. We don't have that. We tend to do it in more artificial ways. If we beat someone we've never beaten before, we say, "Oh, wow, now we've made it, we're really getting good." We lose to someone for the first time. We say, "I can't play anymore." Or on your club ladder or my team ladder, a guy's playing number 4, 2 guys ahead of him are going to graduate. He said, "Man, next year I'm going to play in the top 2. And players behind him mature a little quicker than he does, have a little better season. Everyone's a little bit different in terms of their improvement levels. And some new guys come in. He says, "Number 5, I suck." That's just the way we tend to think. We have to some way or other emphasize the parts of the whole and make those things important. I remember one day at practice, John McEnroe was playing down 4 courts away from me, and Jeff knows I'm pretty loud in practice. And John runs over, hits a ball, and his shot goes in the bottom of the net. I said, "That's it, Mac. That's what I want." He looks up at me. Coach, you cannot be serious. That was match point. I hit the ball in the bottom of the net. But John, you loaded well. You got there in time. The thing's been working on you did so well. But you don't see that. You look at the result. And sadly, that's how we're oriented. This idea of getting better really embraces the concept of effort. Starbucks, boy, was there a line there this morning, used to have these little sayings on their cups for a year or so. You just can't get by if you want to improve, if you want to get better. You just can't get by. And one of these little notes they had in Starbucks, as I'm looking at it one morning, was called The Way I See It. It was written by Joel Stein, a writer for the LA Times. Here's what he said, my wake-up statement. Heaven is totally overrated. It seems boring. Clouds, listening to people play the harp. It should be somewhere you can't wait to go, like a luxury hotel. Maybe blue skies and soft music were enough to keep people in the line in the 17th century, but heaven has to step it up a bit. They're basically just getting by because they only have to be better than hell. Good morning, Starbucks. And aside from the camaraderie that we all share at an event like this, what a great opportunity the USPTA itself, through all of our participation, gives us the chance to grow, to learn from others, to get better, and to take advantage of this opportunity. As we talk about getting better, we also have to talk about vision. An ideal team knows where it wants to go. It knows what it wants to accomplish in life, with family, with relationships, on the job, academics, or in sport. It knows it has to get better and better to accomplish this. Helen Keller once said, I cannot see, but I have great vision. Great statement. For me, in spite of almost no overall athletic successes at Stanford when I was hired, my stated goal was to win that national championship. I quickly learned the importance of patience while trying to implement my vision. I needed a lot during my first few years, just missed recruits, guys transferring out of school. But brick by brick, step by step, our product was getting better. And by the 7th year, my players won a championship. But too often we get caught up in the result itself, such as winning a championship or getting ranked in the top 10, or unfortunately, we measure success sometimes by just earning a college scholarship. Don't ever try to sell that to your recruit as a goal. That's not the goal. The goal is to get a college education, to make a college team. The other goal is extrinsic. I became a much better coach after we won our first championship. I had gotten my ego out of the way, the thing I was trying to prove to myself. I had gotten the monkey off my back of having to do this. Not really so important in the world of things today. I was able to put less pressure on my players by emphasizing getting better over winning. But success in anything, as we all know, it's very, very hard to sustain. And I'll never forget a press conference I saw reported in the local paper, interviewing Al Davis at the start of the season after he had won his first Super Bowl championship with the Las Vegas Raiders, Oakland Raiders. Ouch. His quote was this when they asked him, Al, you won it last year, what are you going to do this year? And he said, he quoted from Alice in Wonderland. And he said, you know, the Red Queen told Alice, you got to run like crazy to get somewhere. But once you get there, you have to run twice as fast to stay there. And how true this really is, and we can't forget that. Never be satisfied with what you've done. You can always get better. Aside of this, never underestimate what you or your players, what your players and your team, the people around you, can do. I made this mistake several times with individuals. Some of you may know from the Northeast, Jimmy Gerfine was a good top 100 player. A lot of demons in his life, had some problems. But here was a guy, came on the team, a 12-man team, about number 10 or 11. And I thought, wow, he's going to be a real good second, sixth player, ready to fill in. Well, by the end of that year, you can't measure heart necessarily. By the end of that year, I'll be damned. I put him in the tournament, the NCAA tournament at number 6, and he helped lead us to the title. And 2 years later, this guy who I thought would never play in the top 6 lost in 3 close sets to his teammate in the NCAA singles finals, Tim Mayotte. But here's a guy I totally just said he's going to be a nice add-on player, but never a good one. Jeannie Mayer came in. Jeannie was trying to learn a one-handed backhand, really limited on that side. His dad was trying to get him to do that, and he could just chip it, and that was all. And he finally got to play number 4 on the team, occasionally once or twice, but that's as high as he got. And I really thought that's about where he should play. Well, a few years later, he's number 4 in the world. Alex O'Brien, if you're from Texas. Alex was a good junior player, came on late, had a lot of flaws in his game, but a heart, so hard to measure heart. He ended up with a 39-5 singles record, including all the tournaments he played in his 4 years at Stanford. Won the NCAA championship in singles, in doubles, and as a team. Second player from John Whitlinger to do that. And just a tremendous competitor. 3 guys, great examples of people I underestimated. And that's about the worst thing you can do as a teacher or a coach. Teams. 1980, we'd taken some early season lumps. We did make it to the NCAA finals. It was a rainy day in Georgia. We had to move the final match against Cal, Berkeley, indoors. Cal was beating the holy bejesus out of us. And I'd given up on the match. I'd given up on my guys. Some of you may know the late Billy Wright, just passed a couple months ago, just a tremendous person, tremendous addition to our profession. One of the nicest guys, the best friends I ever had. I'm sitting there while my guys are out on the court fighting their tails off, but looked like a lost cause, one I had given up on. Thinking, gosh, this is Billy's one chance to win this thing. Am I going to send him a case of beer, a couple of bottles of champagne? What am I going to do to help him celebrate? Where are we going to go? In the meantime, my players came back from nowhere without my help and won the championship. Another time we came in, we had Scotty Davis, you may remember, and good teaching pro down in the LA area, and great teaching pro. And he came in and led a team that had 5 freshmen in the top 7. A lot of them are in the teaching profession. Johnny Letts down in LA is an example, and so on. Really good people, but we weren't a championship team. People told me, well, you lost a lot of guys last year, a couple turned pro, and some guys graduated. What are you going to do? I said, it's really a rebuilding year. These guys have a lot of potential, but give us a year and we'll be pretty good. These guys won the championship. So my point is, don't underestimate people. What a slap in the face for them. I hope it wasn't too obvious in any of these cases that I underestimated what they could do. The worst thing you can do. We've spoken a little bit about the personality traits of an ideal team, including the desire to improve, the importance of vision. But I want to talk about competing because this is really, really important part of the aspect of it all. Especially when everything is on the line. This ideal team absolutely loves to be out there and in that battle. It understands that failure is an integral part of progress. And that even to fail can be glorious if the preparation, effort, and conditions to arrive at that point have been dealt with and have been good. We moved to our matches. We're getting a big crowd all of a sudden. It was during the tennis boom, and Roscoe came in. It was really fun to watch. And people loved him, and the team was building, and it was getting pretty good. A little bit ahead of most of the athletic teams at Stanford, arriving at that point. And so it was really the thing to do, to go to a tennis match. And in some old beat-up bleachers, we sat about 1,500 people, but people were sitting on top of hedges and lying on the ground looking through the hedges. Some of you remember those days, Andrew and Chris, very, very well. And so we thought, well, why don't we get a carpet and put it indoors in a basketball pavilion? And we did that. We did that in 1973. And so we would start outdoors. To give you a little background, this was the weekend we played SC and UCLA, our two biggest rivals. We played one on Friday afternoon and the next one on Saturday afternoon. And we would play at 12:30. We would start with numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 singles, play them simultaneously. Then we would play number 2 and 3 doubles. Those would finish up about 5:30 or 6. We move indoors to Maples Pavilion. Seats about 7,500 people. And there we would start on one match at a time, number 2 singles, number 1 singles, and number 1 doubles in order. And these were big crowds. On that first Friday night, we drew 5,500 people indoors plus 15 outdoors, 1,500 outdoors. Next night against UCLA, the normal 1,500 outdoors and over 7,000 indoors. It was a big thing, watching college tennis. The band, the dollies, it was TV, it was funky TV, local TV, cable TV at the time, radio broadcasts. It was incredible, tremendous atmosphere. And it was something else. Well, 1976, we were playing and against UCLA, our great rivalry, the great Glenn Bassett coaching. And we go indoors in this kind of environment. And I had just moved Pat Dupre, another great teaching pro from the Southeast, who was my number 2 player at times, to number 1. And I moved Billy Mays, who's a great coach at UC Davis right now, to number 2. Well, Billy wasn't too happy about that, but it's a move I felt we had to make. Pat was starting to come on real well, and Billy was struggling a little bit. Well, in the first place, let me give you a little background about how Billy took that out on me. He played Brian Teacher, soon to be a top 10 world player, in the first match in the court. And he just beat him the heck out of him in straight sets. It was 3 and 5 or something like that. But that's a big win over Brian Teacher on a carpet, believe me, on a fast carpet. And I'm sitting there on the bench. On the other side of the umpire stand was Glenn Bassett, Billy Martin, I think he was playing with chain sides. He'd go over sit by Glenn Bassett, Glenn to put his arm around him. Billy's listening, going like this. Well, here I am sitting by myself on the bench. Billy's sure as hell not going to talk to me. He's so pissed. He walks around the other side of the court in front of 7,000 people, goes back to the baseline with the ball in his hand, ready to serve. He just sits there, bounces the ball, wait till Billy's, yes, coach, yes, coach, yes, coach. I'm trying to hide. And then Billy goes out to return, the match resumes. And it went like that the whole match. And so now we're up 4-3. And the atmosphere is absolutely incredible. No ad scoring. Pat Dupre loses in 3 close sets, so now the match is tied at 4-all. And in doubles, in the third set, there had been no service breaks. It was 4-all in the third set of doubles, 4-all in matches. It's 12:30. It would end at 1:45 in the morning, and nobody of 7,000 people have left. Nobody. It's packed. People are going crazy. Absolutely crazy. 3-all point at 4-all. They break us. They're now serving for the match. 3-all point the next point. We break them. 5-all. 3-all the next point. There hadn't been a break until these last 4 games, until the last couple of games. They break us again. Now they're serving for the set, the match, and joy and our disappointment. 3-all point. 6-5 UCLA. 3-all point. Their serve. All 4 players are at net. Fast exchange. UCLA wins the point, wins the match. There's silence in the stands. My head goes down. My players' heads go down. You guys remember this match well. And nobody had left 1:45 in the morning. You can vouch for that. And I went home that night, didn't sleep very much. And all of a sudden I woke up, thought a little more about it, and realized what an incredible part of tennis history I was fortunate enough to be a part of, as were my players. One of the most exciting matches ever, in one of the most exciting venues ever. Probably something never to be, you never say never, but never to be replicated. And we went out to practice on Monday, and my guys came out, their heads were down, they kind of straggled in, and I just kind of sat them down in the court. And I told them about my thoughts for that night, and how proud I was of them, and how proud I was of the way they battled. And they got it. They got it. I read once, and I don't know who wrote it, but basically it said, it can be glorious even to fail. And this was the point. I was making to my team. And it truly was that kind of a situation. With the right effort, in the right environment, it can be glorious even to fail. Something I'll never forget, and a good lesson to learn for all of us. And this ideal team then, it can't wait, however, to bounce back and try again. It absolutely loves the battle. It realizes there's no opponent, there's no game. Great competition makes us all better. The old Google, now Alphabet or whatever it's called, versus Apple. Oracle versus SAP. Alabama versus Clemson. I'll never forget the greatest competitor I've ever had the pleasure of working with, next to Jeff Salzenstein, John McEnroe. The 1978 NCAA championship, no ad scoring. In those days, they still do, you play 4 team matches in a row in those days. You play 4 team matches in a row. And then the next day, you have 2 singles and a doubles, 2 singles and a doubles the next day, a singles and 2 doubles, and then you play 3 out of 5 sets for the finals. John McEnroe, 95-degree humidity, 95-degree heat in Athens, Georgia, throughout the 10 days or 8 days. Played 18 matches in 18 days. The final, all of a sudden, was 3 out of 5 sets against this big, hard-serving guy, John Sadri, you may know and remember, a really, really top player. So hot, John held up pretty well physically, but he was drained, and he changed sides, and we put a towel down the court, and the trainer would take one leg, I'd take the other, would push his legs up to stretch out his back. His back was tightening up. There's no way he could have played a 5th set. I don't know how he finished the 4th. 7-6, 7-6, 5-7, 7-6. Greatest effort I've ever seen. I kind of, as I coach more and more, Jeff refers this a lot. I kind of refers, he coined the term for me, first strike tennis. I really believed in being aggressive, applying constant pressure, serving and volleying, getting in every chance on a return. And I think this proactiveness actually really helps decrease focus. There's one job to do. You've got to get in. And I could tell you where to serve, or what kind of serve to hit, or what I wanted to do in the return, but you still had to execute it and have faith that it might work. But I really felt this helped us in the big matches because it minimized thinking about what they're going to do and trying to build the point happened quickly. And I think it really minimized choking. And our trademark, I think, really was at Stanford Tennis is that we always, always went for it. We were proactive rather than reactive. And I think that today, after the years of just base court banging, we're seeing more and more points. Craig Shaughnessy, thank you, finishing at the net. And a lot of players now are coming back to serve and volley. And I think that the problem is we've had a whole generation of players not being taught that. So I encourage you, teach your kids the value of net play and of getting net. They may not be old enough and strong enough to do it yet, but I think in the right college environment they can learn that. It can put them in good stead later on. This team understands the importance of teamwork to reach a goal. And we're all part of several teams. We have our home team, our work team, our athletic team, our business team of people. And how beautiful it is when all of these members of the team are working together to get better. John Wooden said, "Give me a player who makes my team great, not just a great player." On a great team, everyone, that's all of us, from our office staff, the person behind the deck, most important person of all, the person who picks up papers, probably you, as well as the person at the front desk, help to have responsibility to make this team better. I think the role parts that Steve Kerr has gotten his Golden State Warriors to play in his championship teams and to subdue their ego and to play these roles. Incredible job of coaching. And let's talk about some of these responsibilities from a coach's standpoint, from our standpoint as coaches. One of our responsibilities begins when we build our team. It's our responsibility to prepare our team to be better than any others by doing our homework, be the best at what we do and get better at it, understand our strengths, improve our weaknesses, knowing the trends, what our competitors are doing, having a well-defined purpose for everything we do, setting an example by our own attention to detail, creating an atmosphere of being in a special place. You go to work every day, you're surrounded by these 4 fences That's your living room, guys. That's your living room. It's a hallowed place, a hallowed ground. We have a little heritage room at Stanford. It has a couple of trophies in there. Actually, only national championship trophies, not second or third place, or Pac-12 conference championships. And there's pictures of players on the wall, not great players. Some of them have gone on to be number one in the world. But if you didn't win an NCAA championship, you're not on the wall. And I think as you walk in that room, that aura, whatever it might be in my workplace or your workplace, makes it feel like a special place to those people who are involved. And I think even more, a team, your team that you work with, feels a responsibility to sustain that tradition. It's our responsibility to teach our team to work together. And often this is not easy. The best people have the biggest egos, oftentimes. But for maximum success, everyone on that team of yours has to buy into the dream. How true it is, a team is only as good and as strong as the sum of its parts. We have to recruit a great team at the leadership level. Your associates, the people you hire, are going to reflect directly on you. How you train them reflect directly on you. I was so lucky I went half my coaching career without an assistant coach. When we finally were allowed to have such, I was able to hire John Whitlinger. John, one of the greatest people I've ever had the chance to meet. Just one of my toughest jobs was getting to come back to Stanford, where he'd won the singles doubles of the NCAA championship and the team, to coach. He had just gotten off the pro tour. He was living in Cincinnati. You all know Steve Cottardi, the great pro up there at Harper's Point. And he loved it there. Just bought a big house coming to California. It's sticker shock. His wife was in tears when he made the move, but he did. And we made a great team. And when Jeff says we won 17 national championships, first of all, it's the players, but it's people like John that don't get the credit they deserve. It's our responsibility as we teach this team to work together to give them some ownership. Have them help set goals. Have the team help evaluate results. Encourage their opinions. Use the word we. Lead with questions, not answers. Ask, what if? Instead of, I think. Realize that dialogue is better than coercion. Realize that leadership simply means to empower each person to reach up to heights he or she has never seen before. Too many times we think that charisma is a really big thing with leadership, but I can say that maybe it's just the opposite. Maybe that person that leads with all that charisma is actually intimidating his workers and stifling them from offering their ideas and their suggestions. I've seen that happen. We have to have our recruits on our team feel a loyalty to each other and to the team itself. It's our responsibility also to listen and learn from our team and from their surroundings. We can't be all things to all people, but we can be open, honest, and as fair as possible. We must keep learning from our recruits, their associates, their families, and even our opposition. I've talked a little bit about two traits of my ideal team: the personality traits and the desire to get better, an incessant desire to improve and get better. And there's one more essential ingredient I want to touch on, and that is of balance. If you really want to get better, you have to be really driven. We often tell our teams, and I hear it 1,000 times, it makes me sick to my stomach, be the best you can be. But it's not quite that simple. You can be the best you can be, commensurate only with the amount of time and effort that you are willing to put into it versus all else that you must balance. Frank Brennan, my co-inductee a little later on today, great person. I never heard someone say it better than he. He said, basically, you may have a spouse, you may have kids, hopefully have a job, but you must realize you can't do any one of those things single-handedly. For me, that meant I could have been a much better tennis coach, scouting my opponents more, scouting my own players more as they played other than college matches, watching more video, more one-on-one time on the court. But when I got home, my family might not be there. Or if I were the best parent or spouse I could be, I might not have a job. So it's tough. Be the best you can be, commensurate with the willing time you have and are willing to put into it. Tony Dungy, the great Super Bowl coach of the Indianapolis Colts, in his book, Quiet Strength, talks about his son's suicide, the importance of family, and how one night a week in his most competitive environments, he would send his staff home immediately after practice for family time. No meetings, no films, nothing. One day a week in the middle of the season, at whatever hour it was, 6 o'clock or whatever, they were out of there. We talk about balance, we have to talk about fun. This team has fun. It can balance work, and it can balance play. Usually, it's all business. It must be. But there are critical times when a leader can instill and inject a lightness that sometimes can help lighten the atmosphere. I remember a picture of Bill Walsh's team. They were boarding the bus at the hotel on the way to drive to the actual site of the Super Bowl. Bill was dressed up in the bellman's uniform. And these guys were getting on the bus, and about the bus was half loaded, and one of the guys on his side where he's helping these guys up the stairs looked at this guy in his wig and his uniform, said, "John, isn't that Coach?" And all of a sudden the bus cracked up, and Bill lightened the mood before the biggest game of the year. Don't take yourself too seriously. Laugh at yourself. Laugh with others. Make whatever you do exciting. This is a trait of all great teachers. Convey your love for the subject. I was fortunate when I started out playing tennis. I'm a farmer. My dad was a farmer. His dad was a farmer. I had a horse, used to ride every day. Some way, and I don't know where it came from, my mom got the idea that I should play tennis. White shorts in a town of boots and Levi's. Walking around town with a tennis racket, none of my friends played. Are you kidding me? And I go to this lesson as private court, and two things got me. True confession. Two gals, I'm 11 years old, hormones just starting. Lesson ahead of me, 14 years old, twins. Cutest gals I've ever seen, little short hot pants, halter tops. I'm sitting there. That's okay for a woman, maybe. Then my lesson came up. And Chafe, Harold, by the way, his daughter was Nancy Chafee Kiner, one of the world's greatest players. So you may remember that name. Chafe knew I didn't want to be there. But he made that lesson so exciting. Every ball I hit, he equated everything I did with a sport. And I love sport. I just didn't like tennis. You step into the hit like Rocky Marciano, the world heavyweight champ at the time, steps into the punch. You watch the ball under your racket as Ralph Kiner watched the ball out of the pitcher's hand. Everything was equated with a sport. I could not wait to get home and on that gravel driveway hit the ball against the garage door. I could not wait to pick up that racket again. My magic moment in coaching came when I was working for my coach in the summertime while I was still in school, helping him out. He was a club pro on the side, a part-time college coach. And I would go out and help do the lessons that people wanted to have in their homes. And I'm there teaching, and it was toward the end of the summer, and this little gal, she was about 6 years old, wanted to take one lesson a week for the last 4 weeks of the summer. Chris, I wish I could remember her name. You've had this situation before, I know. And she didn't live in that house. She just came over for a lesson there. And she was so cute. And she couldn't hit a ball. This racket's bigger than she is, those big wood rackets, and it must have been grip sizes too big. And she could barely hold it. And I had to find something to say. And let's just say her name was Susie. I wish to heck I knew it now and would see her someday. She'd fess up if it was any of you. And she would, I'd have to find something. Gosh, those shoestrings are neat. Wow, your hair looks good today. How'd you do that? Where'd you get that little skirt? That's beautiful on you. What a swing. That's exactly how you get the racket. I bet you couldn't hit a ball. That's how good a teacher I was. And finally, the fourth lesson, it happened to be the last one of the summer, in the middle lesson, she put it all together. She got around there, and she stepped up, she hit that ball, and it was the most incredible forehand ever. Went in a court, and I'm going, yay, oh, Susie, that's incredible. You did it exactly right. You did it. I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it. And she started jumping up and down, and she stopped in midair and looked down at the little puddle of water forming underneath her. And in her excitement, she looked up at me aghast, and she ran up the steps, through the house, out the front door. I never saw her again, and she's never fessed up to me. One of my great magic moments. My point is, make it exciting. And, and think of the teachers you've had in school, and maybe subjects you didn't really care that much about. But their love of their subject matter and their enthusiasm and passion in presenting it were, in your mind, what got you attached. So think of that. Have you had joy in your life? And as teachers, of course we have. We're lucky. But more importantly, ask, have you brought joy to others? Our team surely enjoyed our visit to the Playboy Mansion. Jeff, that was before your time. We never got asked back. Our Hawaii Thanksgiving trips, our team golf outings, our nature hikes. You remember these, Jeff? Our trips to Germany, Switzerland, and so on. But we worked hard as well. And we worked together. Special note, this does not mean, guys, this does not mean practicing 6 hours a day all year round at the expense of other things. We started practice at 2:30, and notice today Jeff started right on time at 8 o'clock sharp, not 8:01. We started at 2:30. And we ended at 5. I don't care where we were in practice, we ended at 5. And then when we finally had strength coaches and conditioning coaches other than myself, I would turn them over to those people. And if they took them more than 30 minutes, I'd be all over their back, because I wanted them out of there completely after 3 hours. That was plenty. And I think we were always fresh at the end of the year because of that. It might mean playing another sport. We all talk to parents, and they say, well, what do you do? What does my kid start specializing in tennis? Or, now there's all these club sports and volleyball and everything else. And it's a year-round thing. These poor kids are getting driven to the ground. The pediatricians tell us the biggest cause of sports industry for youth in our country is overuse. Be thankful and encourage these kids to play sports like soccer and basketball in the off-season. It complements us so well. And there should be an off-season for tennis, and they don't need a ton of time on the courts. A couple of general thoughts regarding balance. Perspective is really, really important. Be yourself. You can't be someone you're not. I learned this early on, thank God. It was my second year of coaching high school football. I had the junior Bs, the 9th and 10th graders, the JV junior Bs. I mean, I had 24 guys. It was just me as coach. And we would have, I don't think most of us grew up wanting to hit somebody and grew up liking contact. So these kids weren't used to it yet, and my job was to teach them this. And so on one of the line markers, one guy would be there, and I'd be here maybe 10 yards apart from the other guy, and I'd blow my whistle. I'd just come out of the classroom teaching whatever I taught, sex education, driver training, whatever it was. And I had a whistle. I didn't have time to take my slacks off. In those days, you wore coat and tie to school. Put a whistle around my neck, put my cleats on. And I'm out there, and everyone's lined around in a semicircle. And this one guy, and Eddie Matias. Eddie, hair coming out from under his helmet. This is 1961. I'd blow my whistle. Both players would run. And just before Eddie made the tackle, he would slip. He slipped, fell to his right. Damn it, Eddie, come on. Back on your feet, let's do it again. Here we go. Slip, and fall to the left. Come on, Eddie. Get your, again. Slipped, fell back on his back, looking up at the sky. And I'm right over him. Eddie, and I said every foul word I could say. Every word that I could think of. I yelled it, I screamed it in front of everybody. Because it's what I thought a football coach had to be. Eddie takes it all in. He looks up at me. He waves at me. Excuse my French, but the exact word, verbiage was, fuck you, Mr. Gould. I look at my team, they're going, and then I started to laugh. And I laughed so hard, while I learned the most valuable lesson of my life. Don't try to be Vince Lombardi or what you thought Vince Lombardi was. If you're not Vince Lombardi, be yourself. And that was a magic moment for me, as well as this little gal, Susie, and two really important things in influencing what I did from then on. Be tolerant of individual differences. You know, your family, your kids, they're all different from each other. How that happens, whoever knows. Your business partners, they're different. And really be hard with how you live your life really try hard to set a good example for your kids. Count your blessings. We forget to do that sometimes. We forget to be thankful. We're so caught up with what didn't go right today in the office, on the court. Thankful for your family. My beautiful wife, Ann. How lucky can a guy be? Being a coach doesn't lend itself to a great family life. You know that. The opportunities you've been given, be so thankful for them. For me, what a privilege to be at a place like Stanford University. Dynamic, exciting. And the opportunity to serve and to learn from my players. Every day they taught me something. And finally, I want to talk about giving back. Giving back is such an important part of balance. This team recognizes its own blessings, but it makes others better by volunteering to help, to mentor. I think of one of my former players who got off the pro tour named Jeff Ahrens. And Jeff came to me and said, Coach, I've been out there a couple of years. I'm not going to make it big. But I want to teach kids who haven't had a chance to learn, who wouldn't have a chance to learn tennis otherwise. So I was helping supply an instructor to the community right next to us that actually had the highest homicide per capita rate in the country that year or year after that. Drugs. African-American community. Other side of the tracks, so to speak. Kids had no chance. They had no recreational activities. Took Jeff over, introduced him to the recreation director, hired him on the spot. The high school was being torn down, but there were still 4 courts there that hadn't been taken down yet, bullet casings, syringes on the court. Jeff started teaching there. First thing you know, it's one of the only activities in town. He's got a horde full of kids. Coach, the courts are going out, I have no place to teach. These kids need this. We go to a local school. They put in 4 courts. We raise the money, help them put in 4 courts. They say, that sounds great. Same thing, those 4 courts are packed. Coach, I can't take all these kids. We go back to school. We want to build 4 more courts. They said, yes, go ahead. 8 courts. There's no room on them. Jeff's the Pied Piper, for God's sake. These kids are crying for something to do. They're loving their experience with tennis. Jeff comes up with the idea, wow, if I put them in the classroom, have some Stanford students and some adults come over and tutor them in the classroom, help them with their homework, in essence, in this case, at that time, then I can put half of them on the court Monday and Wednesday if they go to the classroom, then they can come to tennis on Tuesday, Thursday, and vice versa. And this is how East Palo Alto Tennis and Tutoring, you've probably heard of a very famous youth program, started 32 years ago, run by Dave Agaki. Many know Dave now, the great job he's doing for tennis in general. But this is where that started, the giving back, and what a difference it's made to the community. Members of this ideal team, remember to say thanks to those who help it. None of us should leave here without thanking the USPTA officers for putting this on for us, our board, John Embry, what a great job he has done. Our family, our team members, our kids we teach when they leave the tournament, telling the tournament desk, thank you. More than a handshake like this, the umpire, but thank you for letting me play. On and on and on. My scholarship players, I continually impressed upon them the importance that they give back. They had a scholarship, they owe it to give something back. It can be $1 a year, $2, it doesn't matter. Something back for the opportunity they had. I think that our Martin Luther King summed up really well when he said, the time is always right to do right. We have that responsibility to give back and to honor our sport. We have a great opportunity, our students, our community, our profession, meaning the USPTA. I was very lucky when I started out. A fellow named John Gardner, one of the first tennis camp proprietors in the United States, Carmel Valley, kind of took me under his wing, and we started a group in the mid-'60s called Professional Tennis Incorporated. There was no USPTA in Northern California at that time. It was a California division. It was based in Los Angeles. And there was a vacuum there. And John saw that, what we talked about in the meeting yesterday, there was a need for certification. So we formed this organization. John was the first president. I think I was the second one. And we actually I was on a committee, some of you remember Chet Murphy and a couple other people. We formed a teaching manual. It was that thick. That thick. And we actually certified pros in Northern California to teach. And that was 1965. In 1965, I went to our Dean of Instruction. I was at Foothill College. Said, you know, we have to do what we now it's called PTM. And Scott described yesterday, we have to do a program like this. It might at the time, I don't know there was another one. I don't think Ferris State had one that yet. It's 50 plus years ago. He said, yes, we'll do that next year. So I had turned into my curriculum what I was going to do, how I was going to incorporate the community, and we're going to start this. And then I got the job at Stanford, and that was the end of that. But giving back to profession, there's a need for this education, and our contemporaries want it. And it's our responsibility to be sure it's done. Retainers, we had none then. I'd go out and run tournaments all weekend, call people to get them to come out and play in it because that was my source of lessons. If I didn't spend time doing that, then I would have no lessons. They don't just show up. You have to meet them, greet them, make them feel welcome, and then they come back. I'm really proud of our profession. The evolution of coaching levels, encouraging education and learning, lifetime. The gradual embracement, and it was hard at first. I'm really proud. The first ad I saw presenting that, I was a part of it, was Rick Macy, Nick Bollettieri, myself, and I can't remember who else. Red ball, green ball. What a beautiful initiative. I think most of us embrace that now. The alliance with USPTA and USTA, I think that's the right thing to do. It will help everybody in tennis and our profession as well. And we have to figure out some way or other to get the PTR involved with this. Some way to make that work. We're all in the same business. We're all friends. And I love the way we're starting to embrace UTR. I think this is the wave of the future. Get on board with that. We've talked about characteristics, what I consider an ideal team. Personality, the traits of such, the incessant desire to get better and to improve, and the importance of balance, including the opportunity of saying thanks and giving back. For me, it's been a great ride. I'd be so honored my tombstone read, he went for it, he did it the right way, he had no regrets, and he had fun. He got better as a person, a friend, family member, and on the job. I end with an essay I came across in Dear Abby column over 40 years ago. It's a message reminder to all of us as it talks about the journey itself. It's called The Station, written by Robert Hastings. It appeared in the Illinois Baptist, so I'll share it with you now, and it'll help you keep your life's journey in perspective. The Station. Tucked away in our subconscious minds is an idyllic vision. We see ourselves on a long, long trip that almost spans a continent. We're traveling by passenger train, and out the windows we drink in the passing scene of cars on nearby highways, of children waving at a crossing, of cattle grazing in a distant hillside, of smoke pouring from a power plant, of row upon row of corn and wheat, of flatlands and valleys, of mountains and rolling hillsides, of city skylines and village halls, of biting winter and blazing summer, cavorting spring and docile fall. But uppermost in our minds is that final destination. At a certain day, at a certain hour, we're going to pull into that station. There are going to be bands playing, flags waving. And once we get there, there's so many wonderful dreams will come true. So many wishes will be fulfilled. And so many pieces of our lives will finally be neatly fitted together like a completed jigsaw puzzle. How restlessly we've paced the aisles, damning the minutes for loitering, waiting for that station. However, sooner or later we must realize that there is no one station, no one place to arrive at once and for all. The true joy of life is the trip. The station is only a dream. It constantly outdistances us. When we reach the station, that will be it, we cry. Translated, it means, when I'm 18, that will be it. When I buy a new Mercedes, that will be it. When I put the last kid through college, that will be it. When I paid off the mortgage, that will be it. When I win a promotion, that will be it. When I reach the age of retirement, that will be it, and I will live happily ever after. Unfortunately, once we get it, then it disappears. The station somehow hides itself at the end of an endless track. Relish the moment is a good motto, especially when coupled with Psalm 118, verse 24. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We'll rejoice and be glad in it. It isn't the burdens of today that drive men mad. Rather, it's regret over yesterday or fear of tomorrow. And regret and fear are twin thieves who would rob us of today. So, stop pacing the aisles and counting the miles. Instead, climb more mountains, eat more ice cream, go barefoot oftener, swim more rivers, watch more sunsets, laugh more, cry less. Life must be lived as we go along. The station will come soon enough. Thank you.